Good morning, sir. Can you see and hear us?
Yes, thank you very much.
Please may we continue with Mr. Barnes's evidence.
Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Barnes. Thank you again for making arrangements to attend this morning to complete your evidence. The last topic I would like to deal with is the issue addressed in your second statement, the Apex Corner incident. This is an issue which was first brought to your attention by Fujitsu's legal team on the 14th of November 2023, is that right?
I thought it was December, but you might be right. November, December, yes. I can't remember the exact date. Yeah, that sort of time, yes.
In your statement at paragraph 9, you say on the 14th of November 2023,
okay, right.
I was informed by members of Fujitsu's legal team that a series of ARQ spreadsheets were provided by Fujitsu to Pol in response to an ARQ request, and then some information that was provided to you at that time.
Right, okay.
Is that accurate?
Well, if it's written down, it must be right. I can't remember the specific date. It's that sort of time, certainly.
If it assists you to have your statement in front of you, the bundle should have that second statement at tab A2.
Right, okay, thank you.
And you say at paragraph 9 that you were told that the issue related to a series of ARQ spreadsheets provided by Fujitsu to the Post Office in response to an ARQ request from the Post Office dated the 11th of August 2023 relating to the Apex Corner branch. The context for the ARQ request was an ongoing appeal by the former sub-postmaster of Apex Corner, which was before the Court of Appeal, is that right?
That's right, yes.
In the request, the Post Office had requested transaction data relating to Apex Corner for a number of months, which included the months of March and April 2008, is that right?
That's right, yes.
In response, Fujitsu provided the Post Office with a number of ARQ spreadsheets, including a spreadsheet for March 2008 and separately a spreadsheet for April 2008. Is that right?
That's right, yes.
And as a result of comparing the spreadsheets for March and April 2008 with a gyro check report dated the 10th of April 2008, produced by the Postmaster for the appeal, it was discovered, wasn't it, that there were 13 transactions which appeared in the gyro check report but did not appear in any of the ARQ spreadsheets produced by Fujitsu. Is that a fair summary?
That's correct, yes, that's correct.
By way of explanation, you say in your statement you were told that information from relevant peaks, a known error log, and operational correction requests showed a number of things. First, the 13 missing transactions, which had taken place in March 2008, had been marooned on the counter at Apex Corner, together with a large number of other transactions in 2008. Yes?
That's correct, yes.
Second, this had been discovered in April 2008 by the Software Support Centre, and they had manually reinserted these marooned transactions into the legacy Horizon correspondence servers. Yes?
That's correct, yes.
Third, these marooned transactions were reinserted into the correspondence using a virtual counter ID, and the use of that virtual counter ID was the reason that the SSC transaction reinsertions had been identified.
That's right, yes.
You have been investigating the Apex Corner incident, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Starting, please, with the first of the pieces of information you were provided with in November 2023, the fact that the transactions were marooned on the counter at Apex Corner in March 2008. Can you explain, please, what you mean by this, being marooned on the counter?
Well, it's this is really not my technical area, but basically there was some technical problem and the messages weren't copied to the correspondence servers at that time, so that they didn't appear in the audit, the normal audit data. But it's not really my area, that my technical area, that.
To the extent that you can help, how would marooned transactions have appeared to a sub-postmaster using the system in branch?
I would have thought, well, I can't be certain, but I'd have thought that'd have looked okay. It was only sort of behind the scenes that you'd have had a problem. But I can't be certain. I can't be certain to that question. The answer to that question.
Coming on to the discovery of the marooned transactions, is it your understanding that these were discovered by the Software Support Centre following a call from the sub-postmaster reporting problems, or can't you say?
I think that's, yeah, I can't be certain, but it sounds right. It sounds right. I can't, as I say, it's not really, that side of things isn't my technical area, but it sounds right, and from what I've heard since.
Can you help with how the SSC discovered the marooned transactions when they investigated the matter?
Can't be certain on that point, no. No, I can't really comment on that point.
Can you help with whether the marooned transactions would have come to light at all had the sub-postmaster not called the Software Support Centre?
I can't comment for sure. Sounds like probably not, but it's not again, not my technical area of expertise, that.
And your understanding of what they did in April 2008, that is the Software Support Centre, was to remotely access the counter in branch using a virtual ID and reinsert the transactions which had become marooned. Is that right?
That's right. Now that bit I do understand. That's correct. That's what they did. Yes. Now I'm understanding again. Yes.
Setting aside the technical explanation for Fujitsu's production of incomplete ARQ data, in simple terms, is it right that it was the remote reinsertion of transactions a month after they were actually done that caused a problem?
That's right, exactly. And the key thing here, it was a month afterwards. That's the key. If they'd done it very quickly, there wouldn't have been a problem with the audit system. But because it was a month afterwards, there was.
Is it right that the SSC's actions in this regard was only ascertained because of the presence of the virtual counter ID?
Well, that was certainly a indicator, though you see, you can have counter offices with 20 counters, so you need a bit more knowledge than that. But it was an unusually high counter. They add 10 to the normal counter number, I believe, as I understand it.
You say at paragraph 9.3 of your statement, these marine transactions were reinserted into the correspondence using a virtual counter ID, brackets, i.e. a counter that did not exist at the branch, which was used to identify that they had been reinserted by the SSC.
That they didn't exist at that branch. What I'm saying in general, with multi-counter offices, you could have had such a high counter number, but at that branch, there wouldn't have been. Yes, that's correct, yes.
Is it right that had the sub-postmaster in this case not had a gyro check report showing the 13 missing transactions, the inaccuracy of the ARQ data produced to the appeal court would not have come to light?
I think that's highly likely. I mean, it was a completely new issue to me. I'd never come across this before, so it was completely new issues to me. So I would say what you say is correct, yes.
Before we come to your investigation of why the reinserted transactions were not retrieved by the ARQ process applied in 2023, I would like to ask you, please, about a discrete aspect of the Horizon Online ARQ process. There is a suggestion at paragraph 17 of your statement, that second statement in front of you, that once an ARQ spreadsheet had been produced using audit workstations, Fujitsu's security team would do an extra step. Can we have that paragraph on screen, please? It's page 10 of WITN 098-70200. You say, my understanding is that the security team would identify gaps and duplicates in messages through automatic checks and occasionally identify that whole days of messages were missing at the end of an ARQ spreadsheet following a manual review of the spreadsheet. This would sometimes be drawn to my attention by the security team, who would ask me to investigate the gaps and find the missing messages by extending the retrieval range of the ARQ while keeping the filter range the same. Are you saying here that ARQ spreadsheets produced by the ARQ process were and are checked for completeness before they're signed off? Is that what you're saying?
Right, well, there's two aspects for this. First of all, automatically, gaps in the message run and duplicates in the message run are performed by the software. And when the spreadsheet is produced, there's a summary table which states whether there are any gaps or duplicates. However, so that identifies most problems, but obviously with gaps, if you get to the end of the range, well, you can't really be certain because there's nothing beyond it, as it were. So it's really up to the operator. If he sees a whole day missing at the end of the range, then he knows something's wrong. So that would be drawn to my attention sometimes, and the answer then, almost always, was to add a few extra days to the retrieval range, and because the relevant transactions were gathered slightly late. So that was almost always the answer. So it's automatic checking of the gaps, plus, because the automatic gap checking can't check at the very end of the range, manually checking to make sure there are not whole days missing at the very end, if that makes sense.
So if the security team considered messages were missing, they'd contact you, is that what you're saying?
Yes, well, I mean, sometimes they might take their own initiative and add an extra initiative and add a few extra days, I suppose, but sometimes they would contact me and I would go down and have a look. And as I say, I would investigate and very often say, yes, these files were gathered late, you just need to add a few extra days to your retrieval range.
And just to explain what you mean by that, is that rerunning the retrieval request with a wider date range?
Exactly, yes, exactly.
You're not talking then about manually inserting transactions?
No, this is simply the missing transactions were just gathered late, so you just need to, always we add an extra 3 days, I think it is, or there's a considerable number of days that you can add to the retrieval range. We'll just make it a bit bigger, and that can cater for most issues.
Coming then to your findings as to the technical cause of the incomplete ARQ data being produced by Fujitsu, taking it as simply as possible, and please correct me if at any stage I fall into error, is it right that under the old legacy Horizon ARQ process, transactions sent from the counter to the audit archive were given a transaction date as well as a sealed date on which the file containing them was added to the audit archive.
That's right, yes. It
The-
just disappeared from my screen, is that?
That's fine, you
Oh,
don't need that
right,
document
right.
at this stage. If there's anything you'd like to see, your second statement,
Right.
which you have in front of you, may assist. The 13 missing transactions, which had transaction dates in March 2008, were not sealed in files in the audit archive until April 2008, because they were marooned and then reinserted by SSC a month after they were in fact conducted. When the Apex Corner ARQ request was processed, the data was filtered to retrieve 1, transactions with a March 2008 transaction date from the file sealed in March 2008, and 2, transactions with an April 2008 transaction date from the files sealed in April 2008. What were not sought were transactions with a March 2008 transaction date from the file sealed in April 2008, and therefore the 13 missing transactions were not retrieved.
Exactly, that was the problem, yes.
In the course of your investigation, you applied a revised query for March 2008 transactions from files sealed in April 2008, is that right?
That's right, yes.
Could we have on screen, please, paragraph 20 of Mr. Barnes's second statement? That's page 11 of WITN 098-70200. And you say this: once this revised query was applied, the 13 missing transactions were retrieved and presented on an ARQ spreadsheet, and the automatic checks noted at 16C identified gaps in the messages that had been reinserted by the SSC on the virtual counter. At this stage, I am not sure why there were gaps in relation to these messages, and the investigation is ongoing in this regard. Can you explain what you mean by gaps in the messages which had been reinserted?
Right, well, after all the files are retrieved, each message has a number, and they're all sequential. So always the software automatically checks that there are no gaps, so that you can be sure that nothing's being missed out. But for these special inserted transactions, there were gaps. Now, normally gaps is practically unheard of. It just doesn't happen. We check for it all the time and it never happens. But they were happening for these inserted transactions by the SSC. Not too sure why that was. But I suppose because they were done in a slightly unusual way because of the manual insertion. But so normally gaps is unheard of, really. It just doesn't, well, we always check for it, but it's very, very rarely reported, and always a thorough investigation occurs when there are gaps found.
Does this mean on the face of it that the SSC did not reinsert the transactions accurately?
Well, I don't know the answer, really. I just don't know. I don't know quite the answer there, so I can't be certain on that point.
You say that investigation is ongoing in this regard. It may follow from your last answer, but do you have any update in relation to either your investigation or that of others?
No, we're looking at another aspect actually at the moment. We're concentrating on that. But yes, I could get back. I could have another look at that point. But I haven't found anything myself further. I was hoping someone else might have commented on it.
Turning then to the extent and impact of the ARQ extraction issue. You deal with this over the page at paragraph 21. Could we go to that paragraph, please? And you say this, based on the investigation so far, in general terms, my understanding is that the ARQ extraction issue can occur in the following circumstances. A, there is delay between 1, the date that a transaction was carried out at a branch, and 2, the date that the TMS file containing the transaction was sealed in the audit archive. B, the delay is caused by error or fault, e.g. counter hardware failures, a fault with the sealer, network connectivity problems, which leads to transaction messages that took place in month A being stored in the audit archive in TMS files that are sealed in month B, e.g. in the Apex Corner incident, the SSC reinserted the 13 missing transactions and others using a virtual counter ID. C, an ARQ request is received requesting data for the branch, including in relation to month A. D, the current Horizon Online ARQ process is followed to respond to the ARQ request, and the sealed TMS files relating to the branch for month B are not searched for transactions that took place in month A. And E, the automatic checks, noted at paragraph 16C above, fail to identify any gaps in the transaction messages that would indicate the transaction is missing. You then say this at 22, the Apex Corner incident has shown that the current Horizon Online ARQ process has a flaw because transactions in Legacy Horizon for 1 month can be stored in the audit archive in the following month, such that the additional days allowed in the retrieval range are not enough to capture all the relevant TMS files that were sealed late. As a result, Fujitsu is modifying the process to allow 3 months in the retrieval range, i.e. the date range applied to retrieve TMS files. Hence, it will retrieve up to 2 months of lately sealed or inserted messages. You say at paragraph 23 that you are working with other technical and operational staff in the POA to understand the extent and impact of the ARQ extraction issue, including in relation to Legacy Horizon and Horizon Online. First of all, what steps have been taken to investigate this?
Well, what we're doing at the moment, we're concentrating on the Legacy Horizon, but what we're going to do is, a colleague of mine is writing some software to do this, is we're going to extract every month of the cluster files and search them for any cases where there's a transaction in them which is in the following month or any higher month, that is, and produce a report on that so we'll see how common it is. So that's what we're doing right at the moment. That's what we're concentrating on.
And do you have any update or findings which you're able to tell us about today?
My colleague I read an email from him saying he's got some test results to be looked at, but unfortunately, like yesterday, I was concentrating on my statements, but I shall be looking at that this afternoon when I get back.
Sir, those are all the questions that I have for Mr. Barnes. I think there are some questions from call participants, but before I turn to them, do you have any questions?
Well, what I'd just like to know, just so that there are no possibility of cross wires, this last topic that you've been covering arose in the context of an appeal to the Court of Appeal, as I understand it. Does either Mr. Barnes or does the inquiry know whether that appeal has been determined?
I don't know. I know it was because of an appeal. I don't know the answer to that. Our Fujitsu legal team would probably know, but
you don't know. Do we know
personally?
Sir, I'm told that it hasn't by those who represent the post office.
Right. Well, then I think if there is an ongoing appeal, we all need to tread a little carefully. So I need to give some thought to how much further the inquiry should delve into this prior to a determination by the Court of Appeal. So that's a rather long-winded way of saying, Mr. Barnes, that the inquiry will contact you rather than you contact the inquiry. if we need any further information about this aspect of your evidence, just so that I can be careful not to interfere in any way in the processes of an ongoing appeal.
Thank you, sir. Shall I turn to call participants?
Yes, please.
Ms Page has some questions, sir.
Yeah.
Mr. Barnes, my name's Flora Page and I act for a group of sub-postmasters. Could we have, please, a document up? It's FUJ 00189289. And I hope this document is one you've had a chance to look at. It's only very recently been given to you. Have you had a chance to see this, Mr. Barnes?
Possibly. I think I might need to.
Perhaps we could zoom in a little bit on the lower half of the page from the heading that says EOD and migration.
Yes, I read a lot of extra material. I don't quite remember this one, but anyway, you're welcome to ask me a question about it. I'll do my best to answer.
Well, the first question, which will tell me whether we need to ask any more really, is whether migration prep is the migration software that you said that you were primarily involved with.
Oh, I think, yes, I think that was a different bit of software. That was, yes, it's a long time ago. There was some counter software where you press a button to do the migration, which I definitely remember writing. I think, yes, I think I did write the migration prep too, but I might have got that wrong. It's it's an end-of-day process, yes, right? I think so, but...
The reason I ask is because what we see described here is migration prep failing in the way that perhaps you say software should fail. In other words, it's very apparent when it encounters a problem, it just sort of falls over, I think. And we see that the reason it has fallen over when this sort of problem is described is because SSC messages which were inserted remotely seem to have interfered in some way and caused migration prep to fail. Does that make sense?
Makes sense, yes, makes sense.
And so that might be an example of what you describe as sort of good error handling. Is that right?
Well, that's the idea. Right? If something's wrong, it's far better just to stop than sort of keep going and report the error. Then hopefully it can be fixed, and then you can produce correct reports. Yes, that's the idea. Yes, certainly.
What we seem to have here, when we go down a little bit, is just stopping at the paragraph that starts Sorry, just a little further up. In the last year or so, SSC have developed a tool which did go through LST testing, which will insert EOD messages for a branch. This is normally used when a branch has closed down and the kit removed before EOD. That's end of day, yes?
That's right, yes, that's correct.
On the last day of trading. So there are messages on the correspondence server which will never be harvested unless we take some action. The tool writes the necessary messages on the correspondence server, hence there may be end of days on nodes other than one. It then says, we have also used the same tool very occasionally on branches which aren't closed, but where, for example, one counter has been down for over a week, resulting in none of the transactions for the branch being harvested, and there are continuing problems trying to replace the box, and they give a number. And then they also talk about, in the final sentence, or where kit was removed for a 2-week refurbishment without writing a full end of day. So it looks like what's happened is those messages which are inserted following hardware failures or following a branch closing have caused migration prep or the migration process to fail.
Right, okay, yes.
Is there really any way of knowing how often these inserted messages caused other processes to fail silently?
Not really, I suppose. No, I suppose not. I suppose not is the answer. Not for certain.
Well, thank you, Mr. Barnes. Those are my questions for you.
Is that it?
So that appears to be it for call participant questions, yes.
Well, thank you for returning today, Mr. Barnes, and for answering further questions. And as I've said, I don't expect you to provide any more information to the inquiry unless we specifically ask you to do so. All right?
Okay, thank you.
Right.
So-
Where do we go now, Ms. Price?
So if we can take a 5-minute break to enable the next witness to come into the hearing room. We have Mr. Sewell next.
Fine. So I'll remain where I am, so to speak, but just turn off my video for a few minutes.
Yes, sir. Back just after 25 to. Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Blake.
The next witness is Mr. Sewell.
Yeah.
Good morning, sir.
Repeat after me. I swear by Almighty God
I swear by Almighty God
that the evidence I shall give
that the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you give your full name, please?
Peter James Sewell.
Mr. Sewell, you should have in front of you a witness statement. I think it's either at the front of that file or
Yes.
behind the first tab.
Yes.
It has a unique reference number of WITN 09710100. Is that dated the 8th of September 2023?
Yes, sir.
Could I ask you to have a look at the final page, or the final substantive page? That's page 12. Is that your signature?
It is.
Thank you. And can you please confirm that that statement is true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
It is.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sewell, that witness statement will go into evidence and will be published on the inquiry's website in due course. I'd like to start with a bit of your background. I think you joined what was then ICL in 1997, is that correct?
Yes. Yes, 97.
We've heard quite a lot of evidence about the rollout of Horizon. Were you involved in the rollout of Horizon?
Only in the positions that I've stated in my...
Typically, say in the year 2000, then, what kind of involvement would you have had with the Horizon system?
I was probably manager of a development team in that area.
So you were on the technical side?
No.
No.
I was the manager, not the technical manager.
So you managed a group of technical people?
I did, sir, yes.
In 2002, you joined the POA security team, that's the Post Office Account Security Team.